September 14th meeting of Atlanta Public Library District.
Randy,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
Lori here, Karen is here, Bill Thomas is absent, Jean Clark is absent.
Okay. We're at the public comment section. We will allow 4 minutes for each person on our list with a total of 20 minutes so we can then go on into the rest of our meeting. First on the list is John Crack.
Well, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
This was pointed out to me earlier in your between the meetings. Your new bylaws. You know, the Paul Grill is part of the restaurant or the part of the library. Wants to take that whole paragraph out of bylaws. Might avoid some confusion. Bottom of page 5. Or is it part of the library? We don't need it. I don't think we got to know. Additionally, the old bylaws include a sentence that says members not attending 4 meetings in a given fiscal year may be asked to resign. It's kind of funny that that sentence is missing in the new draft of bylaws. Is Bill Thomas planning on ever showing up again? Because I'll guarantee you we're going to be here until he does or until he resigns or gets arrested. Section 5 of your new bylaws, your new draft. Electronic meetings of Atlanta Public Library trustees may be held only in an emergency or where timing is of an essence. You don't have the authority to have electronic meetings per the Open Meetings Act. Ever. No electronic meetings. There has to be a quorum here, and you can have somebody call in if there's a legitimate reason, and you've already passed rules allowing them to do that. Section 5. Section 4, membership requirements. Trustees must participate in orientation by the director of the president. You can't add extra requirements to be a member of the board. You cannot do that. You can ask them to attend orientation. You cannot require it. Article 9, amendments to the bylaws. By a vote of yes, at least 5 trustees. Well, is there any place in the Library Act that authorizes you to require more than just a simple majority? I don't think you'll find that in there. Once again, get a new attorney. He's doing you a disservice. That letter he wrote will not protect anybody. Please don't pay him for any more advice, especially if that's the kind of advice you get. Anybody acting on that advice can't be protected by that crazy letter that he wrote. Each one of you know, if you read the Public Officers Prohibited Activities Act, you can't have an interest in the building or any contracts or anything when you're sitting on the board. And you're still paying rent to somebody that's allegedly still on the board but never shows up. Him not being here, it makes no difference. You're still paying him rent and you're still collecting the rent, and he's the treasurer.
Thank you. Next on the list is Kirk Allen.
In your profit and loss budget versus actual, title at the top is Atlanta Public Library District. Item 590, Palms Grill rent. It shows July through August 17, $250. The budget says $3,000. I'm curious if that's part of museum and not library. Why does Palms Grill rent show up in your library budget? Doesn't seem to be consistent with detailed information that was provided earlier. In regards to hiring and firing, Mr. President, I understand the last, or one of the directors here a few years ago, you personally fired. The board didn't do it. The law says the board in charge of that. Is that not true? You didn't fire her? You don't think so? There's nothing in the minutes that says the board did. You also at the last meeting made a comment, excuse me? I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, you got comments.
At the last meeting, you made a comment that you guys haven't raised your tax levy in, I think it was since 2012. And this is back to the comptroller reporting. In 2014, reported property tax revenues of $72,229. In 2015, it was reported $72,906, approximately $700 more. That would be an increase. In 2016, $145,199. That's what's on the comptroller report for property tax revenue. So to say that there hasn't been any property tax raises would be inconsistent with the reporting. And I think the public has a right to know where that inconsistency comes from. There may be a simple answer.
There is. I mean, if you'd like to submit questions, we'd be happy to get back to you with answers.
Like we did the last meeting.
I haven't gotten the answers to the last meeting.
Well,
You didn't have time. I understand that. You're busy. I get it. But when you make a statement and records say something different, that's where the controversy starts. I don't know how many of you have read.
What?
I don't believe that the increase came from an increase in the percentage that the library gets. I think if there's an increase, it's because of evaluation on houses or property. If you look at tax revenue for most districts, their revenue will go up yearly, regardless of whether they get a higher percentage or not.
there is a lag time between when the referendum is proposed and passes and when the library actually receives that increase. So when we say 2012, that's when we began working on the referendum to increase taxes. But there is a lag between that point, the election, or the passing of that referendum, and at least 1 year after that before we actually see that increase. That's why you're saying 2014, we're saying 2012.
Right.
We have only done it once since 1969.
And I think what you're referring to is the tax rate stays the same. When EAV, equalized assessed value, goes up, therefore it brings in more revenue, which is more property tax. And that's
What?
The rate
No,
is not,
the
the
rate
rate stays the same.
Oh, I see. I see what you're
the
saying.
rate stays the same.
Right.
EAV goes up, which brings in more revenue. And that's, the tax system is so confusing, but the general public, when they hear what you said and read what's reported, that needs explained in a fashion like you just did. Because it's inconsistent with most folks' understanding of what, hey, we raise taxes, but the numbers say you got more tax money.
Do you understand why we have more money then?
Oh, I do, perfect.
Okay.
I understand the EAV and the property tax system inside and out.
Okay.
In regards to, and I apologize if this comes across as arrogant, but I want you to know something. Mr. Kraft brought up the Prohibited Activity Officers Act, and he did it for a reason. We've been at this for 7 years, and we've warned and we've cautioned, and nobody yet has taken a step to correct some of the things going on. The Auditor General, we exposed. We pled the Fifth Amendment after our exposure. J.D. Kessler, an official in Edgar County, indicted on 2 felony counts for voter fraud. Nobody believed us. He's facing jail time. Brian Town, former state's attorney in LaSalle County, everybody said we're nuts, we don't know what we're talking about. 17 felony count indictments. 2 convictions in Edgar County just last month on officials that we exposed for the very same type of behavior 5 years ago. And for 5 years, everybody said, no, you're wrong. See, it's been so long, nothing's happened. We haven't seen anything happen yet. Lincoln Way, today, District 210. Superintendent Wiley, indicted on multiple counts for some of the same things we're talking about here tonight. Be proactive and fix this. You need to ask or call for a vacancy with Mr. Thomas, and you need to request the state's attorney to do his job. And if he does it, that's fine. We'll go around him like we have with others. I don't have any more public comment.
Thank you. Larry Brand?
Yes, I'm just wondering how many more meetings we're going to attend as the treasurer not going to be here.
Forever, that's why they're changing the bylaws.
They can't.
And Marilyn Horrick?
Nobody gets an answer.
Well, I was wondering, it was brought up at the August 10th meeting about the doors being torn in between the buildings. Has there been anything to say that it's going to be fixed, and who's going to pay for it?
We spoke with the insurance company, and at this time, they don't see an issue with the openings and doors as they are. They said as a precaution, if we'd like, we should install fireproof doors. And I think the board is currently taking that under consideration.
Who's going to pay for these?
But it's not required. Well, right now, we haven't decided, the board hasn't decided to do that. So right now, no one's paying for it because we haven't gotten there yet.
So they can stay this way?
Yes, and our insurance company has no problems with it.
From a public building into a private building, doorways were cut, authorized, I assume, by this board. I have a problem with it.
Yeah, the other's a board member, that's why they did it.
I realize that.
Ms. Horrick, you have the floor.
Yeah.
Next name we have on the list is Amy Wertheim.
Get off road.
All right, okay. So I don't take any pleasure in this, and my family tries to stay above the fray and out of this muck. Unfortunately, one of the grants is associated with my family, so.
Amy, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can make my voice carry.
Thank you.
I cheered for a while. I know how to project. Regarding the audit, I didn't get a clear answer or a full answer when I asked that a couple months ago. You said it's not required by law. It is required yearly by law. I talked to Clifton Larson, Allen. They are the one that the state recommends that does the library audits and other county audits. I talked to their government team. It is required by law. I did talk to McLattery and Associates. They do the state and the federal audits. They said also libraries are required by law. Now they did say most of the time they don't do it because it can be expensive. And as long as they can do an audit where they can show where they looked at their expenses and they do have all the bills to match it up, you can get by with that. But since we don't have the bills being presented for payment, that's a concern. So I would like to see a copy of every audit that has been done on the library finances only since 2007.
There haven't been any.
Well, we don't
There
have.
actually, there have been, Rachel, there were, my mom was
Yeah,
on the
but
board,
let's
I
just
know
straighten
they were
this one
done.
out. Why not?
They
I
were
mean,
done.
we'd be happy to show you the statute that says that libraries with revenue unless we have revenue of $850,000, an audit is not required. And we'd be happy to give you the
Okay,
statute that
and
shows
so we
that.
can swap information on what they say versus what you guys have. The problem with the grants. All the grants that I have reviewed, the private ones that you received and the public ones, none of them listed indirect costs. And I know you guys probably don't know what, you might know what that means, Kathy.
I do, but most
Okay.
of the grants that we receive don't allow us to ask for money for indirect costs.
The Woods Foundation does. There's none of that there. So my concern is every dollar that you have got, has that been spent specifically and only for what was listed in those grants? And I would like to see a financial statement matching up with this grant. Here's what we spent, how it was done, to see that every penny matched. Because the Woods Foundation has not got those financials back. They haven't had those returned back to them, saying if they gave you $25,000, here's how we spent the $25,000. They don't have it. Regarding those grants specifically, when you get to a certain threshold, then those grants require audits to be completed. I'm pretty sure since we haven't done library grants, you haven't done grant audit either. So we need to have the grants be audited also. The Woods Foundation, the family's very upset about the probability of impropriety, misexpenditure of monies. At this time, unfortunately, until Bill Thomas is either resigned or removed from all financial touching of anything, there won't be any more Woods grants given to the library. They are doing an in-depth audit on each grant that has been given. If there's any monies that look to be out of place, there is a strong probability those grants will have to be paid back. I'm not happy about it, but we have to protect the foundation. The museum. When the museum was set up, in the charter of it, and I went back and was reading the old files, it said that they would never have any employees that were paid. It was always to be done by volunteers like Larry and other ones in the community who know the town, who know the history, who know everything about the museum and what's been here. And the volunteers have summarily been dismissed and Rachel's been brought in. Now, Rachel has done a very good job. I'm not saying you haven't, but we're now spending money on the museum that was never intended to be, and we can't find anywhere in any of the minutes that said that they passed and approved hiring of a person for museum director. So where is that? Palms Grill, my only concern about that is, and Rachel, you do a good job running the grill, you really do. But the problem we run into is you get paid by the library, you get paid by the museum, you get paid by the grill. Is there any double, triple dipping as far as hours or cross section? Because when you look at the budget, it looks like all your time is spent on the museum, so therefore you shouldn't be in the grill and getting paid there. And then unfortunately I have to give this to all of you. Oh, actually I just get to give it to the auditor, sorry. Pretty very descriptive about that. You can share and make copies if you want, though. This deals with the request for performance of non-discretionary duties as it relates to the Public Libraries Act. You've been short a board member for months and months on end. And when it's been brought up the last 2 months, nobody seems interested in making sure that that vacancy gets filled. So unfortunately, if you turn to item 5, if this continued non-compliance of the Public Library District Act Section 30-25, Section B is not met by the October 2017 Atlanta Public Library District, then an immediate filing and petition for writ amendus when the 11th Judicial Circuit Court in Logan County will be filed. And at that juncture,
Amy?
yes.
If you look at the agenda, I think you'll see where the election of you personally is on
I
the
did see
agenda.
that. I did see that. The problem is, if you look at the bylaws, the old or the new, it says for you guys to be able to do anything, you have to have 5 people here, you have 4.
No, to amend the bylaws.
Well, to amend the bylaws,
And
and
that's
so,
the new bylaws that
Yeah.
have not been adopted yet.
okay, all right. So if, and that's okay, if you get somebody elected tonight, or you appoint somebody tonight, and this is null and void, it needs to be done by the next meeting.
Okay.
Please do it, please don't make me have to
It's
file.
it's on the agenda.
All right, because the state's attorney for Logan County said not only will it be followed up on, in all probability, there will appropriate fines and sanctions apply. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have exceeded the time for public comment, so sorry that you other folks didn't get a chance to speak what's on your mind.
Don't be sorry, let them speak.
You can ask for an extension.
We'll move on.
So, on here it says programs. And I'm going to skip both sentences.
I didn't
Because
say-
our
I didn't-
time
Miss.
is being spent
Miss.
pointedly requests and other related
Miss.
tasks.
You yell at her one more time, Randy.
Julie, I said that we would
Are
have
you
20
too
minutes.
busy to do the FOIAs, or you just don't have the answers for the FOIAs?
We've done all the FOIAs, so
Did you guys get your answers from last?
I have one outstanding that has not been answered.
So, it has your name at the bottom, Kathy. Are you the one who wrote this page?
we're not talking about this.
We're gonna move on.
Okay, that's fine, but you know where I stand with this.
Speaks, why don't you let go be on the 20 minutes?
Well, it's
We
not
don't-
my fault that you wanted to take somebody else's time.
Oh, yeah, you got a gavel, don't you? You didn't use it.
Okay, I'll tell you what, the next time we have public comments and your 4 minutes are up, you will be asked to sit down.
But the fact that you allowed others to go over, you've already violated the rules. Let people
He
speak.
didn't allow anybody to go over until just now.
Why is the Palms Girl not paying rent?
We are moving on. Okay, we're looking at the approval of August 24th, 2017 special meeting minutes. If you'll look in your packets and look at those minutes, I would entertain a motion to accept them as written, if there are no additions or corrections.
I make a motion to accept them as written.
A second.
Motion's been made by Lori, seconded by Steve, to accept the minutes as written. Call the roll, please, Karen.
Randy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Karen, yes.
The motion carries. We also have approval of treasurer's report for August 2017.
Yeah, I need to give you some information about the profit and loss statement, and then we'll have some action to take on it. Today, when I was looking over this in preparation for the meeting, I noticed that the income and expenses didn't match. It showed a $43,000 deficit, which obviously this board would never have approved. So I talked to the treasurer, and we went back and figured out what was wrong with the profit and loss statement. There are a couple of oversights, I think, from the bookkeeper that we need to correct. There is a missing income line item for $9,900. There's a carryover of funds for $10,000 from last year that went into this year's budget. The fundraising event line, which is 533, we had increased to $5,000, and she had not updated that. And then under expenses in line item 643, instead of $2,500, she had typed $22,500. So if you make the revenue additions and the income subtractions, the budget is back into balance. So we can't approve this tonight. Unfortunately, this would have been the same profit and loss statement from the last meeting, so we'll need to go back and correct that one too. And I think with that explanation, we just need a motion to.
I make a motion to rescind approval of the July treasurer report passed in our meeting on August 10, 2017, and defer acceptance of the report until our October meeting pending review and correction of profit and loss statement for July 1st through 31st, 2017. I further move we defer acceptance of the August treasurer's report until our October meeting pending review and correction of the profit and loss statements for August 1st through 31st, 2017.
Motion's been made by Lori to withhold approval of this report until it has been corrected. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the roll here.
Randy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Karen,
On voting, motion carries. We'll now move into the director's reports.
Yeah, usually these are part of the consent agenda, but I'll answer Molly's question about the director's report. In fact, we are and have been inundated with, Rachel and I have, with filling FOIA requests. To our knowledge, we have met the deadlines of all requests. If there are those of you out there who seem to think we have not, please do get in touch with us. I would remind you, however, that FOIA is about a request for documents, not a list of questions. So if you have if you ask a question that was not a document request, we may not have answered that. But if you have specific document requests, please feel free to give them to us. And we have not, on purpose, forgotten anybody. We don't do. So that's all I'll say about my report.
Rachel?
Does anyone have questions about my report? Then it's
Steve?
all.
Okay, moving on. There is a sheet in your packet about the insurance. You want to make any comment on that, Karen? There is also a report on the Palms Grill.
Any board member has any additions or
What?
comments? If any board member has
Questions, comments?
questions or comments or something, other information that they would like to see on this report, please let me know. This is obviously the first one we've done, so, this is what I was together initially, so, moving forward. But,
Can't hear you.
sorry.
What?
We can't hear you.
Okay. The next portion of the agenda is the compliance audit of minutes. We have had two of the trustees look over the past year's minutes and have found no discrepancies. So we are therefore going to certify those as accurate and complete. Pardon?
Will that include the corrections for August, yes?
Yes. We will include the corrections for August minutes at the next meeting. There's no old business. The new business to be looked at is Special Reserve Fund Ordinance of 17-03.
Okay. We had a request for information, which actually turned out, thank you, whoever made this, it was very helpful to us. You asked us for the ordinance that actually established the Special Reserve Fund and the plan. Rachel and I went back, and Rachel went through about 40 years of minutes, I think, back to the handwritten days. In 1994, when we became a district, the director at that time and our attorney were under the impression that this ordinance had been done. And every board since then, including this board, has operated under the principle that that ordinance was passed. We couldn't find it in the minutes, so we don't know if it was or it wasn't. So we are adopting that ordinance, or both those ordinances, tonight, and they're in your packet. I will read the first one. It's Ordinance 1703, establishing a special reserve fund for the Atlanta Public Library District. Be it ordained that a special reserve fund is provided by 75 ILCS 16/40-50 will be established, into which will be transferred thereto each year the unexpected balances of the proceeds received annually.
Unexpended.
What?
Unexpended.
Unexpected, yeah, I wish. Unexpended balances of the proceeds received annually from annual public library taxes, not in excess of statutory limits. Be it further ordained that the board will resolve to develop and adopt a plan or plans pursuant to the provisions of 75 ILCS 16/40-50. Be it further ordained that the board will provide in the annual appropriation ordinance for accumulation of such unexpended balances in order to carry out that plan. This ordinance is effective immediately upon a vote. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Lori, seconded by Steve to accept this ordinance. Any further discussion? Call the roll, Karen, please.
Randy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Karen.
Okay, the second ordinance, oh, sorry.
Motion carries.
Sorry.
Okay.
The second ordinance is 17-04, it's an ordinance establishing a special reserve fund plan for the Atlanta Public Library District. It reads, whereas unexpended yearly fund balances have been accumulated in the special reserve fund pursuant to ordinance number 1703 as authorized by 75 ILCS 16/40-50. Now, therefore, be it ordained that the Board of Trustees of the Atlanta Public Library District adopt the following plan and purpose for said special reserve fund. The plan and purpose, oh, there's a typo, which I will fix. The plan and purpose for said special reserve fund shall be for the expansion and improvement of library service by the development of a modern comprehensive library facility through expert studies and/or consultants, purchase of real estate site for buildings, construction of facility or remodeling, repairing, improving, or addition to existing facilities, or for the purchase of necessary equipment and materials for or in anticipation of such expanded library facilities or all of these objects. It being the purpose of the Board of Trustees of the Atlanta Public Library District to provide the public within said district convenient and extensive library facilities for all for the use of the public. Be it further ordained that the amount to be accumulated in said special reserve fund shall be $60,000 or that amount which the Board of Trustees of the Atlanta Public Library District may from time to time determine to be in the best interests of the public in securing the purposes of said special reserve fund. This ordinance is effective immediately upon passage. And this is language right out of the statute, by the way.
So I would entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 1704.
I'll second.
The motion's been made by Steve, seconded by Karen to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Call the roll, Karen.
Randy?
Yes.
Lori? Yes. Steve?
Yes.
Karen? Yes.
Motion carried. We have budget appropriation ordinance 17-05. Since we have already had the hearing on this, we will dispense of the reading of this ordinance, and I would entertain a motion to accept.
Make a motion to dispense with the reading of the ordinance.
And what about accepting?
And accepting it.
I would make a suggestion, Mr. President, just to make things better, if you'll allow me.
I couldn't hear you.
I would like to make a suggestion just to make things simpler going down the road, if you would allow me. Please.
Speak.
Under the Open Meetings Act, even though you had a hearing that was a separate public meeting, this is a new public meeting, you're required to have a recital with sufficient information to inform the public of what you're doing. Instead of just a blanket passage, recite some information from the budget to meet the compliance with the Open Meetings Act, please.
Actually, I believe if we provide you with a written document, we don't need to read it. I'm not, nobody I know reads it out.
Is there any conflicts on the board? You're going to vote on something that you have a personal interest in the employment of?
He's not here to vote. Motion's been
So that's
made.
the only conflict?
He's not here to vote, that's an acknowledgement of the conflict.
What about insurance?
She's
I
not.
have the motion.
Somebody work for the insurance company?
Call the roll, Karen.
Randy?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Karen? Yes.
Motion carried. We have a draft of the new bylaws.
Yeah, we won't really be voting on these bylaws tonight. They're presented for comment, from review from trustees, and we will take into, I've made notes of the comments that some of you made during the comment period, and we will look into that and see what changes might need to be made. These were drafted using the Illinois State Library Association template, as well as information from the statute. So if there are questions about it, we will go back and look and make sure that we have them in order for the next meeting. But if the board has any comments or feedback, I would accept those comments at this time too.
Anybody have any? I would ask that you would review these and bring them to the next meeting and we can adopt them at the next meeting with the appropriate changes.
Well, you have to just officially vote to approve us. Rachel is away. Excuse us.
Can't hear you.
These are the two FOIA officers.
Okay, on the agenda it says appointment of FOIA and OMA officers. I'd like to appoint Rachel as the primary FOIA officer, with Kathy being the backup or secondary. Same for the, or opposite of for the OMA officers. Kathy will be primary, Rachel will be the backup. Do I have a motion to accept that appointment?
I make a motion to accept that appointment.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Call the roll, Trina.
Randy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Karen,
Okay, moving on. Next section is the revised public comment guidelines. They are printed on the back page of the handouts. Just need a motion to accept these or to approve them for the board.
I'll make a motion to accept the rules of public comment. As written. Back page.
And I'll second.
Any other discussion?